Good evening. Tonight we begin with our interview with Armando Lucas Correa, who is an award-winning journalist, editor, author, and the recipient of several awards from the National Association of Hispanic Publications and the Society of Professional Journalism. His memoir, In Search of Emma, How We Created Our Family, about fatherhood, surrogacy, and IVF, was published in 2009. He is the author of the international bestseller, The German Girl, which is now being published in 13 languages, and The Daughter's Tale, also being published in multiple languages. Interviewing Armando is Comadre Tess Tobin, project manager for Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club. She is the former president of Reforma, the national association to promote library and information services to Latinos and the Spanish-speaking. She has been a proud member of the book club since 2007 and enjoys promoting the works of Latino authors. Comadre Tess, take it away.
Hi, Armando. Good evening. How are you?
How are you? Happy to be here with you, Tess.
Yes. We usually start with this question. For those who have not read the book yet, can you give us a brief synopsis of the story in The Night Travelers?
Yes.
I know it's very complex.
Yeah, I know. The Night Traveler is the story of a young German poet, Ali Keller, and that she has a daughter, and the daughter, when she's 7 years old, she has to do the impossible to get it out of Germany, Nazi Germany. We're talking about here, 1933. What happened? The daughter, Lilith, she's a Michelin, a mixed race. And because of the Nuremberg race law signed by Hitler in 1933, all the children that are Michelin, mixed race, they have to be sterilized when they are 7 years old. The girl, they do like x-rays in the body. And for the boy, they're vasectomy. Then Ali Keller has to do, she found a couple, a Jewish couple, going in the MSS St. Louis to Havana, and they are one of the 28 passengers that disembark in Havana, and then the whole story starts there. Yeah.
Right. Very good.
It's 4 generations. We're talking about Ali Keller, Lilith, then Lily has Nadine, Nadine has Luna. No, it's how they interconnect between each other.
Right. Very good. Your 3 novels, as Maria just mentioned, The German Girl, The Daughter's Tale, and The Night Travelers, are related in some way. They're all historical fiction. Each one starts in Berlin in the 1930s, and each one relates the story of mothers trying to protect their children. The Night Travelers covers 4 generations of strong women. What was your motivation for writing these novels?
I think everything started with The German Girl. I have this idea since I was a teenager, I think. I was obsessed with the MSS St. Louis. And, if you don't know, this is an ocean liner that left Hamburg May 13, 1939, with over 900 Jewish refugees, all of them with permit of disembark in Cuba. When they arrived in Cuba, the president at the moment, Loredo Bru, denied the entrance to all the passengers. Only 28 passengers disembarked because he requested another $500 per passenger. That was a fortune during those years. Then they're trying to go to United States, and President Roosevelt denied the entrance as Prime Minister Mackenzie in Canada. They were sent them back to Europe. Some of them, they went to France, or other to Belgium, Holland, and England. And of course, the only one who survived the war, the England one, because most of them ended in Auschwitz. I knew the story for the first time when I was like 10 years old. I grew up in Cuba during the 70s and 80s. And my grandmother, she's a daughter of a Spanish immigrant that arrived in Cuba at the beginning of the 20th century. She was pregnant with my mom when the boat arrived in Havana in 1939. And I remember my grandmother fighting with my grandfather, saying Cuba is going to pay very dearly because what they did to the Jewish refugee, and they're going to pay for the next 100 years. My grandmother was a little crazy. And when I went to college, I have access to the National Archive, and I was writing my thesis about a different thing, but I asked to the librarian if they have anything related to the San Luis. And in Cuba, they have to whisper, and they say, oh yeah, we used to have like 3 boxes labeled with the San Luis, and all of them disappeared during the 70s. Then when I arrived in 1991 in Miami, working for the Herald, I started collecting everything related to the San Luis. I have plate, postcard, picture, original document. I bought books in language that I don't read. The diary from the captain, by the way. And because I am a journalist, I was thinking to do like a non-fiction book, interviewing historians, survivors from the boat. But in 2005, I became a father. And I always said that my daughter made me a novelist, and everything started with the idea. And I published my first books. It was In Search of Emma, and I remember this editor, Johanna Castillo, in Simon and Schuster. She reads in Spanish, and my book it was in Spanish. And they said, Armando, you have to write a novel. And then I said, Johanna, all the writer have a novel under the bed. And then I had the lunch with her, and I show all the documents and the idea with the San Luis and the story of this girl surviving in Cuba. And I said, Armando, I need this novel immediately. And we signed a contract, and I think it's finished the book in the next 2 years. I've been working this book for almost 10 years. And then when the book was in print, it was sold already to 12 countries. And then I signed to another 2 books. That's The Torres Tale and The Night Travel. I have been writing this for the last 10 years, writing, about mothers, daughters, loss, and the war.
No, they're very good. I belong to a Spanish book club, and we read La Niña Alemana in Spanish.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I didn't read The Daughter's Tale, but I think I am. And then I very much enjoyed The Night Travelers. But that's an interesting story. And did you say that all the documents in Cuba disappeared about the history of
all of them? There, some people said that once, Fidel Castro asked for them and they keep them, they never return it to our National Archive. And it's crazy because, they create like a small Holocaust museum in Havana in an old synagogue. It was this Jewish woman fighting to create this space. With the help of the government of Israel and Steven Spielberg, they create this small space. And I donated most of the document to them.
Oh, very nice.
If people go to Havana, they can see most of this document there.
Very nice. Yes, it's an interesting history. There are so many threads in the novel, that of motherhood, love, loss, war, the communities of women, survival, and hope. Is there at least one theme that you wish your readers to take away when they read these books?
My obsession with this kind of story is always because I think we are ashamed of them. I don't know how to explain that. For example, The German Girl, it's easy to say that Hitler killed over 6 million Jewish and the Holocaust is, but when we mention that Cuba, United States, and Canada was part of the tragedy, we prefer to put it on the side. And that's my idea, no? And if you realize, I am proud that I helped the office of the Prime Minister Trudeau to do a kind of apology. It was in 2019, I think. Oh. Remember, 75 years later,
right.
But I helped them to invite 7 children of the St. Louis, and they were there. And it's because, we're ashamed of that. And I think that's the center of the story for The German Girl. And The Daughter's Tale is the same. I work in a story about Oradour-sur-Glane. This is a small town in the south of France that one day, a Saturday, in the middle of, I think it was June, during the 40s, the SS arrived. They put all the women, over 600, inside of a Catholic church, and they burned them alive. They destroyed the whole town. And what is the reason we never heard about it? Because it was the SS with the help of the Polish Frenchmen.
Right.
You know? And then we put it on the side. In the case of the night traveler, it's almost the same. We're talking here about eugenic, these pseudoscience about the purity of the race and the mind. And Hitler was inspired when he created the Nuremberg law, race law, in a book written by two doctors, American doctors in Pasadena, California in 1920s. And that was the creator of the eugenic, that, by the way, it was applied in some state in the United States until the 70s, like Virginia. And I always trying to rescue this kind of story. And when I talk to my children about the Second World War, the Holocaust, and everything that happened during those years, I trying to explain that was yesterday, you know, because for them, the Second World War is like ancient, you know, like the Egypt, the Greeks, really far away. It was yesterday. It was in the middle of the 20th century. Yes. It was in the middle of the most civilized continent in the world, Europe, and in the most civilized country in the world, Germany. And what we can expect from our countries and the third world, and for me, that's important to understand. And as one of the survivors of the St. Louis, that she lives in Canada, and she's a good friend of mine, and we talked together when the book was out. She said to me that history tends to repeat itself, and we never learn from history. I think this is more or less the center of all my books.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy you brought this story, you know, to readers, because, you know, not many people know about it, and it's a very sad. But anyway, your main characters, as you said, we have Allie and Lilith and Nadine and Luna, the 4 generations, are all strong, intelligent, complex, courageous, memorable women. How did you go about creating such compelling female characters?
I grew up with a strong woman in my family. I grew up with my grandmother, the crazy one, saying that Cuba is going to pay very dearly for the next 100 years. And by the way, she was the first woman that divorced in Guantanamo during the 20s or 30s. Oh, she was very independent, very strong. And my grandmother, to have an idea, she married my father before the revolution in 1959. And she was the first of her high school. My father was an engineering working for the U.S. in Guantanamo base. And then during the 60s, I was born, and then my sister and my mother said to my father, I want to be an engineering. And he said, no, you have to stay taking care of the kids. And no, I'm leaving you. I'm going to take my children. We're going to Havana, and I'm going to be an engineer. My mother is a mechanical engineer, and she's 83 years old, still working in Miami. Oh, and my sister and my aunts, I think all these strong women, they are part of my life.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, my father is a good guy. He's living in Havana with his new family. He's a good father for his children, not with the new woman. But he's a kind of ghost for me. And maybe that's the reason most of the father in my book, they're kind of ghosts. They're nice people, you know, and I have a nice picture of them, but they are, you know, they disappear in some part of the story all the time. Yeah.
That's interesting. Very good. I like this question. By night, we are all the same color is one of the moral themes, I believe. Can you elaborate on the significance of imagery of light and dark in the novel?
Yeah. For example, Lilith is a very special name. Lilith, you know, it means light from some culture and means darkness for the other one. You know, for the Jewish people, I think it's darkness, and for Christian, they are lights. And I'm trying to play with that name. And for me, it's important, all the names and the sounds. And because Ali Keller is a poet, I start trying to figure out what is going to be the main idea on this poem that is going to survive during the whole book. I remember my editor say, Armando, I need to read this poem. He said, no, I want you to have this, angel to read the poem, but the poem, you have to elaborate in your mind. I'm going to give you only one phrase. And I remember writing the whole poem. Of course, I wrote the whole poem, but it's going to be only for me and have this only phrase. And I think it's strong because at night we all have the same color, more or less said. And when Australia, I am a bestseller in Australia. All my books, I have, I am very, very grateful for Australian. And they create a book with the title of By Night, We Are All the Same Color. I love that edition. Yeah.
Oh, they changed the title, really?
Yeah, for the ARC edition,
Okay.
that distribute for the readers and librarians and booksellers. Yeah, and I love that. I said to them, "Oh my God, I love that title because it's a stronger." I love the Night Travelers too, and I think Sweden, because it's gonna be in Sweden now, they change to those people who travel at night. Something like that. Yeah.
Now I know Rumi has that poem, In Search of Darkness. So did that influence you, or did your idea?
When I start writing, of course I have my idea. I have a couple of pages, and when I signed to write the book with Simon & Schuster, I have to have my title. I have to have the phrase of Rumi. And I remember discussing with my editor. At that moment, it was Johanna, and now she's my agent. And we found this phrase from Rumi that night travelers are full of light, something like that. No?
Right.
And I think it's perfect for the whole book. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely it's have it throughout this whole. Even Luna, I think, doesn't Luna like to work at night?
I just said Luna, because for American people, they don't know that Luna is moon.
Right.
Everybody is the light at night. I'm trying to have everything.
Yeah, no,
the same.
Very well done. Okay, the second part of Night Travelers is in Cuba. It's the end of the Batista years, beginning of the revolution. To me, it was one of the happier times in the book because Lilith meets Martin and they have a baby.
Yeah.
They're not in Germany with all that. I was just curious, was your family, did your family have political ties with Batista, or what?
Yeah, I think all the Cubans have this situation. No? I grew up in a family with my grandmother being part of the revolution with her son and my mother. In a way, she was too young. No? She was 20 years during those years, but she was very supportive of the revolution at the beginning. And my grandfather, he was pro Batista. He was always defending Batista and everything that Batista built during the first period. For non-Cuban, it's hard to understand Batista. Batista, he was a president elected by the people during the 40s. And then he became a dictator in the 50s. For any situation, all dictators, even Fidel Castro, they're trying to find a reason that to be, during when Batista left, the country was a chaos. There was a lot of dead people and fighting in the street. The economy was a disaster. And then, the coup d'etat. He took control of and it was really sad because he was the one who created the constitution on the 40s that, by the way, is still active right now. And then during the 50s, he removed the Congress and the constitution, and he became a dictator. And that duality, I grew up with that. And nothing is in black and white. And I think the whole book is about that. Even in the first part, when we're talking about the Nazi and France, you are going to see France in the whole spectrum of a Nazi. And I was very careful because every time that you read or see a movie about a Nazi, you see an ogre screaming or bad people, and then Fran is gorgeous, he's handsome, he writes, he has sensibility, he's in love with Ali, and he's helping Lilith, and then you're going to see the whole spectrum of that, because and that's the same that I want to show with Batista. No, Batista did good thing, at the same time did bad thing, at the same time, like Fidel Castro in the revolution at the beginning.
Yeah.
And for me, because I'm Cuban living in New York, and all my books is about Germany, France, and US. This is the most Cuban of all my books, I said, because in the German girl, you're gonna see Havana through the eye of the young little, the little girl, Jewish, and she doesn't understand Cuba. But in the second part, you can see the good part of Cuba during the 40s, and then the terrible thing during the 50s, then the revolution. And I remember I never thought to include the Operation Peter Pan, the Operation Pedro Pan. But during those years, I was working for People en Español, and we went to Miami to cover, I don't know if you remember, the crisis in the border between Mexico and US, and during Trump era, and all these children abandoned and put in cages in Texas. And some of the 700 of these children, I think they moved to Miami. And I remember a couple of journalists saying, oh my God, how can a mother can abandon a child? They had to put them in jail. And I said, okay, you don't know about the kinder transport in Germany, that during the 30s, over 10,000 children were sent without their parents to England, and they survived the war. And then I remember about the Operation Peter Pan, because I know a lot of Pedro Panes, no? And 14,000 children were sent to US with the help of the Catholic Church without their parents. Most of them, some of them, they never saw the parents again. And they were thinking to saving for the communists, and it was traumatic, but you never know what you're gonna do under a situation like that. Never, you know, we have to be careful until judge someone. Yeah.
Interesting also. So Nadine, your character here, has spent her entire life avoiding the truth about her family's history. Do you agree that forgetting is a survival mechanism, and this is what Nadine is doing? Was that what you intended?
It's part of the human being. And for example, when I finished the German girl, I tried to contact, you know, most of the survivors, the children of the boat. And I remember calling some of them, and they say, oh, Armando, this is too painful for me. I prefer, you know, to forget it. Even one of them, the daughter and the son, they told their mother that I don't want to talk anymore about this. You know, we are no victim. We need to put it on the side. And it's painful. It's painful sometimes, you know, to survive. And most of these people, the one in Canada, they ended in Mexico after they survived the war. And when they arrived there, they said, okay, we need to move on. We need to forget, you know, what we were, and we need to create a new life. And they were always scared that, you know, it's happened before with Hitler, it can happen again. Remember, surviving during the 40s and 50s, it was hard for them. And I think it's a surviving mode. And I can't justify or judge these people, but I think we need to talk about, you know, if we don't talk about the story, it can happen again. And I think we need to take care of our pain and then move on in a good way, and telling the story and passing the story to the new generation.
Right, very good. At the end of the book, we learn about Franz's betrayal. That surprised me. And that Allie and he had a daughter named Elizabeth. In which stage of writing the book has you thought about introducing this part of the story? I mean,
and Elizabeth is the only one who, you know, who arrived at the end. Since the beginning, I created friends with all these different faces, let's say that way, because my idea, it was to create this complex character that, you know, if you think about it, most of the German, they were nothing. You know, that's the reality. The whole country support Hitler.
Right.
and then all of them, they were monster. I don't think so. You know, you follow an idea. I can say if my opponent is ideologically, you see, in United States, we have divided the countries by the country. You can say that the people that don't think like you, they're going to be monster or criminal. That's impossible. And for me was to create this complex character since the beginning. But at the end, I need Elizabeth here. Elizabeth has to be like the bridge between the past and the present.
Right.
And I always atmospheric in my style when I creating character and a scene. And when you are reading about Elizabeth, you never know how she is. You don't know if she's thin or fat or dark or blonde.
Right.
You never, because if I put a picture of her, you immediately is going to have a good or bad connection with her. I only want you to listen to her, and you're going to create the body with the voice.
Oh, you left it vague on purpose, just so we think. And it made Nadine think, made Luna and Nadine, think back at that time. So it was a nice connection.
And then you have Luna creating all these characters, and she's going to write a story that Ali couldn't write. No?
Right. Good. Some of our book clubs have some questions that they submitted, and one of them, I'm not sure the phrase, but one of them is, can you please expand on the passage, "You can't leave life carrying a heavy load"? I'm not sure.
That's my grandmother. My grandmother always said, you have to put all the drama, all your pain, all your past on the side, because when you're living, you have to be light. You have to live this life happy and with the best memory. And I am, this is something that I apply to me too. I prefer to remember the good thing, the bad thing I put on the side, because I know a lot of people, and everybody's different, that they have a big baggage, like carry on all this drama,
right,
and hate. I don't hate. Hate is heavy.
Right. Yeah. Good. Let's see here. This storyline would make a good movie. Have you ever been approached to?
Well, we signed a contract for the German Girl. Yeah.
Wow.
It was before the pandemic, and everything was stopped during those years. And I heard that in November they're going to announce a director for the movie, but right now we're in the middle of the strike. I don't know if it's going to stop it or not. But yes, we signed for the German Girl, and not yet for the Daughters of the Night Traveler. But I suppose if they do a series, it's going to be good, a good season 2 and a good season 3. You never know. No,
I hope so.
And the book that is going to be out in January, The Silence in Her Eyes, we signed for a movie already.
Oh, already? Before
and we have a screenwriter that everything stopped because of the strike, and I hope it's going to start moving soon. Yeah.
So that's your upcoming work. What was the name of it? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Is The Silence in Her Eyes.
Okay.
It's a completely different book. It's a book that nobody wanted that I write, because when I finished The German Girl, I talked to my editor. I need to write something to break, because I need a rest. Like all this, when I'm writing, I write and I'm suffer with the characters and everything. And then I want to create this suspense story. And then everybody said, no, Armando, you have to stay with the historical fiction. You are good at it, and you have an audience already. And then during the pandemic, because I have a lot of time, locked in the middle of the book in my upstate house, And I finished the science and right when my editor, my agent read it, she loved it, and then Simon Schuster bought it, and she's gonna put it out immediately in January. I just came yesterday from San Diego from a thriller suspense convention in San
Oh,
Diego,
my goodness.
and let's see what happened. Yeah,
Yeah, good. That's great. It's nice that you know, you can switch because,
exactly.
you
I'm a
have the
storyteller.
idea.
I love to tell stories, and who cares if historical fiction or it's a suspense or it's a political thing. I don't know. I love telling stories.
Good, good, good. Well, we're coming to the end of our interview. Thank you so much. As I said, our readers, our book club members have really enjoyed your book. And I'm so happy we got to talk about it. And I was just saying, we have a lot of comadres who are aspiring writers. Do you have any advice for young readers?
Yeah, I'm gonna say what's important for me because I am right now. I am lucky. I am a full-time writer, but my 4 books. I wrote my 4 books. Being editor-in-chief of a magazine, having 3 kids, and having a hectic life. And writing for me is my zen zone. Is the moment that is for me. Some people run, make yoga, meditate. The meditation is writing for me. And the most important thing as a writer for me is read. Before I start writing, I have to read around 45 minutes. It's the moment that my brain wake up and my ideas came to me. I never have like a white page and I don't know how it's gonna write. No. If I start reading, my brain start functioning immediately, and I start writing. And be disciplined, be perseverant, and the only thing that you need to have a book is write 1,000 words per day. You write 1,000 words per day, in 6 months you have a novel.
Good for you. Well, we'll definitely look for your new book. And once again, thank you so much, Armando. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me. And thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.